Brilliant stuff. So it's 6 o'clock on this wonderful Thursday, the 30th of July. Welcome to From Employed to Empowered. Mark Moffat sharing his journey with us. I'm really stoked for this. I love Mark's journey. I love listening to what he's got to share with you. So, sit back and enjoy this next 30 minutes of how we get to meet Mark. What we're going to cover over the next 30 minutes, if you could just flick to the next for me. First of all, we're going to let Mark introduce himself. You're going to get to know Mark. Who is the real Mark Moffat? Who is the person behind what I will describe as the legend? Humbly will not accept that, but that's what it is. We're here to talk about his journey from being employed into being self-employed, how his strategy and mindset, what's really worked for him, and the things about the support that has made such a difference to Mark, and finishing off with some final thoughts and any questions that can come at the end. So without further ado, Mark, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It is your show. If you can move on to the next slide for us. So let's, without any further ado, meet the man, the legend, Mark Moffat. Mark, over to you.
Thanks, Jim, for that. That's lovely intro. So thank you. So hi everyone on the call. My name's Mark Moffat. I'm an estate agent, and I'm with the Property Experts. I've come into I worked as a high street agent for 14 years. Sort of going into the industry in my sort of early 20s, worked in that industry for 14 years, and then kind of worked my way up. So when I sort of first joined that agency, I started off sort of making tea and coffee and getting used to how all the phones work and all that sort of stuff, delivering lots of leaflets, cold calling, all that sort of stuff, all the stuff you do in a estate agency that is kind of sort of the lower end of what you'd kind of expect to do in a high street agency. Over the years, I kind of worked hard, and then started obviously getting out and doing viewings and market appraisals and all that sort of stuff, which was really great. And then I was promoted to director within that business, which was really cool. I sort of started to have a bit more kind of understanding about how that business worked and how we spent money and all that sort of stuff. But I'll be completely honest, I always had I kind of always really wanted to have my own agency. That was what my real dream was. I fell in love with the industry because I love meeting people, and I love that every day is completely different and all that sort of stuff. And I guess in my old sort of high street estate agency world, I was spending a lot more time managing people, not necessarily doing the bits about the job that I really loved, which is kind of viewings and market appraisals and on the phones and speaking to solicitors and buyers and sellers, and more importantly, negotiating house sales and getting people moved. So I decided to look at I kind of wanted to move away from the high street world, and when I stumbled across the Property Experts, it just felt completely right for me. I just really kind of liked what the fact that I'd have my own business under kind of the Property Experts umbrella. I really enjoyed that, and kind of getting that off the ground and all that sort of stuff. So I'd kind of been an estate agent before, and then sort of partnered with the Property Experts. So yeah.
Fantastic. So moving on then to the bit of the story that I love to talk to you about, Mark, because we shared it together over a few months, is it wasn't just an instant decision. That's it, I'm going to give my job up and go self-employed. There's so much that you considered. Talk us through then that decision to go self-employed and what that actually meant to you at that time, and talk us through that decision.
Yeah, so one of the reasons I wanted to go self-employed is that I had a lot of ideas in my sort of high street agency. I wanted to do, I could see a lot of other local estate agents and sort of some other agencies across the country that were doing kind of videos and virtual tours and professional photography and drone footage and all that sort of stuff. And I loved the look of that. and I really kind of liked that. Thought that's kind of new and exciting, and all that sort of stuff. My kind of old high street agency, they weren't really. They kind of had their own model, which was tried and tested and worked for them. But that was kind of one of the real reasons I wanted to kind of go self-employed. And for me, the best thing about going self-employed as an estate agent is that you're then the decision maker. It's completely down to you how you do things. So for me, I wanted to do everything professionally. So professional photography, drone footage, virtual tours, social media. That's kind of a massive sort of part of our industry now. That again, I never did any social media before last September, which was when I set up. Not in my personal life, not professionally, nothing. So I've really kind of had to push myself to sort of start using that. But one of the biggest reasons to go self-employed was to work for myself, but also there was something more. I kind of felt like the sort of old high street agent that I worked for kind of got to the point where I thought, if I don't do something now, I'm probably going to be here for the next 30 years. It was almost, I'd been there for 14 years. I'd worked hard. I'd, gone from sort of the bottom of the, of the office, worked my way up to the top, and I probably could have done. I still would have been happy. It was not that I was really, really unhappy, but I just wanted something more. Something more I felt for me was out there, and the decision to go self-employed it was one of those I'd always wanted to do. There were maybe a few hurdles, sort of in the way that I maybe had to get over. Probably the biggest one is sort of, financially. So I live in Reading. I'm married. I've got 3 children. My wife and my kids are just my world. So, I've got financial responsibilities. So you do need to have a sort of strategy and a plan in place for, I've got a big mortgage, and like I say, me and my wife both got a car. I've got 3 children that, there's bills and everything else. So probably one of the biggest sort of hurdles was kind of financially. Once I'd got over that kind of hurdle, which basically was kind of a lot of saving of sort of salary and all that sort of stuff, I did take out a really small loan just to kind of help me with the first couple of months of sort of bills and things. Not everyone does that. Some people do it. It's down to sort of individual kind of circumstances. So that was probably the biggest sort of hurdle, the financial thing. There probably was other hurdles in my mind of, am I going to be successful? Is it going to work? I've got a great job. I'm a director. I'm earning good money, all that sort of stuff. I do work for someone else, and I work long hours, but I kind of thought, well, everyone works long hours, so that's kind of neither here nor there. Yeah, it was just one of those. It was just something I'd always wanted to do. I'm really glad I've sort of made the move and taken that leap.
Yeah, no, so are we. Listen, that's a really candid answer, Mark, and I know nothing less from you, because that's who you are. Very human, very candid about what you've done. So you've reflected back there on the entrepreneurialism in you, the desire to do something different, and to be your own boss. Just to expand on some of the things that you actually did then, and we'll touch into the sort of the next question, which is, what did the next sort of first 3 to 6 months look like? So once you'd made the decision to go self-employed and joined under the Property Experts Network, what did your entrepreneurial actually look like in real life? What was that shift that happened?
So it was very different. So I'd gone from being employed by someone, with the phone kind of always ringing. So people phone for valuations and market appraisals and all that sort of stuff. There's always a steady flow of houses that are coming onto the market in a high street agent. You've got a steady flow of exchanges going through. So and you also get a basic wage, which when you go self-employed, obviously you don't kind of have that. So when you go into being a self-employed estate agent, there's probably certain kind of things that you would need to do to kind of get your business off the ground. The most important thing for me was I've literally told everyone that I know what I do. So anyone that ever really comes into contact with me knows that I'm a self-employed estate agent. They know that's what I do for a living. And it's amazing how you actually, get business and win instructions and get work just from actually telling people what you do, because everyone needs somewhere to live. And what people really like is a trusted estate agent that they can work with. So kind of the biggest thing is when you're setting up, you're going to have to be able to get yourself out there and tell people, that this is what you do, that, and some of the, places I've had the most strangest places where I've got instructions from. It could be to do with my children's football teams, parents. It could be a local shop owner that I would speak to, tell them what I do. And so that's kind of the biggest thing. You need to be able to tell people what you do. You need to kind of get on social media, which I'll admit can be quite daunting, especially if you're not on social media now. But that is a fantastic way and quite a cost-effective way to let all your friends and obviously your network kind of builds as your business builds. But that's a great way to kind of get your name out there, and that's really what you're doing. You're getting your name out there so that if someone ever is thinking of buying a house, selling a house, your name would might pop into their mind and they'll give you a call. Being on social media is kind of really important. And like I say, as of September 2024, prior to that, I hadn't been on Facebook or Instagram probably for about 10 years, from sort of in my mid-20s. I didn't really know how to use it. It kind of scared me, to be completely honest, because it was something that I didn't really want to do, but knew I had to do it for my own business and to kind of help me grow and all that sort of stuff. And I'm kind of getting to a point now where I post sort of bit of video content, and so I kind of do a mixture of things. I sort of do content about properties that are coming to market. I put all my videos of properties on my social media platforms. I put a little bit about my personal life on my social media as well. So because I think people like to know that they're sort of that you're an actual person. You're a human being. You've got a life like everyone else. I've got children that I want to teach how to play golf, and but I also like spending time with my wife and all that sort of stuff. So whilst a lot of my content is property related, what I'm doing property wise, houses that are coming on the market, houses that are selling, houses exchanging and completing, that sort of thing. I do put a bit of a snippet of my own life onto sort of social media, because I like people to sort of see a little bit what I get up to as well, sort of on that kind of part. So telling everyone social media is really important. And I also network. So I go to networking groups, which I think is just great. Again, that might give you a different, you might meet a different group of people than within your sort of close circle, but would maybe in turn you help each other. So if you're part of a networking group and the idea is to refer each other, then that works really well. But definitely going from employed to self-employed, it's you kind of have to have the mindset that you have to be quite strong, because don't get me wrong, there's some really good days, there's some great days, and I'm just so grateful that I've kind of taken this step and done it, and it's probably the happiest I've sort of ever been in my life. But also there's some times where it's tricky and you're working late, and I kind of thought once I'd come out of the high street estate agency world that I used to kind of call my office the prison, which I know sounds a bit strange, but I'd be in the prison from 8 a.m. till 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and I was working for someone else and I was earning them money, and I was earning a real fraction of actually the money that I was bringing in. So I was only ever really earning a very small percentage of the money that sort of was coming into the business. And I thought when I went self-employed that I would have a lot more free time. So being completely honest, I thought I'm a really keen golfer. I thought I'd be golfing every Friday. I thought won't be working weekends, and that was all before which is a bit strange because I've come from the high street world, and I know that most people want to view houses on at the weekends. So it's very different. You'll have to graft. You will have to put the hours in, because when you're getting yourself off the ground, like when I was sort of saying about when I worked in the high street world, and that phone would just ring, and someone phones you and says, "Oh, hi, yeah, I want to book in a market appraisal," and that's because when you work for a brand, that company's been going for 20, 30 years. Your phone will ring, but when it's just you and you're new to the industry, what do you do to make that phone ring? And you have to get your name out there, and you have to, leaflet drop, and you have to speak to people and tell people exactly what you do. It's hard work, but really worth it. It's great.
And that leads really nicely, Mark, into that first 3 to 6 months, because you're right. A lot of the self-employed positions are sold on the basis, or promoted on the basis of, have a nice work-life balance and be your own boss and enjoy your free time. And whilst you can do that, and what's been lovely is you've been able to balance, whilst you might be doing 70 hours a week, actually the important things in the week, like attending your daughter's sports day, those are the things that you can balance out, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And it's one of those where I think probably where I was so desperate is probably the right word. Desperate to make it work. I kind of felt like I was all in to the whole process. So it wasn't sort of 70-80%. I was 110% in. And it was really actually from talking to Jim and other coaches within the property experts who encouraged me to have a day off, which sounds probably a bit strange, but you do have to have a bit of you time. And I guess probably when you work in the high street estate agency world, once the office closes and it's 6 or 7 o'clock at night, you can go home and you can walk away. Slightly trickier to do that when you're self-employed, because you want to provide the best service. You want to be the best for your clients and your vendors, and you want them to recommend you. But it's so important to give yourself that mental break. Have a day off. For me, it would be have a round of golf, go out for dinner with my wife, or that sort of stuff. Spend time with my kids. But one of the best things about being self-employed is that I get to take my kids to school, which is not many dads get to do that. I can completely work my diary around my life, so I get to take my kids to school. I get to go to sports days, which I was sort of never really able to kind of do unless it was, if you take a long run up and, with your boss to get the time off to be able to go and do it. And also things like one of my daughters plays football, and she plays every Saturday morning. And for me, this whole season, I've not missed one game, just because, I've been able to go and watch her play football, and then have, if I can schedule appointments for later in the day, or for the Sunday or whatever it is. So it's just really important kind of to give yourself that sort of time as well. But that being said, at the same time, you're getting a business off the ground, and you want to make it work. So it's getting that balance, which is really important.
Yeah, and that's interesting, because those first 3 to 6 months is all about, like what you said, is graft, isn't it? And just talking through some of the headlines. I mean, doing the basics, leaflets. I mean, talking through some of the basic things that you did to really get your business growing in that first 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, so I did a lot of leaflets. And also got my father to help me with a lot of leaflets. He just sort of retired last year, and he said to me, "Is there anything I can do to help?" And I said, "Well, I've had 10,000 leaflets printed, so if you could crack on with a few of those, that'd be brilliant."
Yeah.
Of course, he was chuffed. So yeah, did a lot of leaflets, and so kind of on that, I had a real sort of specific area that I wanted to target. So I was probably looking at so where I live in Reading. Reading's made up of quite a few little sort of towns, sort of outside the centre of Reading, and I wanted to concentrate on one of those towns, which is where I'd been an estate agent before, where I was well known, that was where I went to school. It was where I played football, played rugby, all that sort of stuff. So I really wanted to concentrate on that one area. So that's got about 5,000 houses. So I basically did one round of leaflets, kind of in, to all of those houses, and then probably now I'm on like a sort of 6-week cycle where every house in my area every 6 weeks gets a leaflet with my face on it, my name, a little bit about me, my contact details, all that sort of stuff. So leafleting's a big part of it. Some estate agents think it's a bit of a dying art, or a bit of a, I don't know, kind of the right term, just not worthwhile. It takes a long time to do and all that sort of stuff, which is fine. I've had a good, I've had a good amount of sort of success from it. So that's been great. The social media side that I mentioned, again, it's a really cost-effective way, especially when you're starting, to get your name out there. Let your, if you were on Facebook and had, so many friends, you can let all those people know sort of straight away that that's what you're doing. So Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn are kind of the ones that I focus on. Again, I wanted to kind of keep it small. So I was still thinking about going on TikTok, but I thought I'm going to start small and then potentially one day can kind of, sort of move to sort of other things. But so Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn, and I pretty much try and post every day just to kind of keep my, sort of keep my posting nice and regular so people sort of know what I'm doing and what I'm up to. I said before, I do a lot of networking. I joined a BNI networking group, which has been really good for me. That's a really nice way to meet other business owners. That can, so that networking group is kind of all about referrals. So you refer each other. So that's been really, really good. So it's kind of to sort of help get my name out there. But the biggest thing, honestly, is telling everyone what you do. That's honestly the best tool that you've got, because I think people buy from people, and I just think, whilst everything else is great, but when you tell people what you do, you'll get a lot of business from that. So yeah.
Fantastic. And how well recognised are you now around those 5,000 houses?
Yeah, it's quite funny. Yeah, because I've done a bit of advertising at my local precinct, and that's a massive picture of my face, and it's basically the same advert that's on the leaflet. So I now get people taking pictures of it, and then people I don't even know, and then WhatsApping me their picture next to my adverts. That's a bit strange, but yeah, no, it's good. But again, it's one of those. It's just getting your face and your name out there is so important.
Fantastic. So what's the next phase for you then, Mark? I mean, you like, we've published very openly. Again, you're very candid about that. You're on target to earn over £100,000 in your first year from a standing start last September, which, in our industry is very rarely heard of. You've done exceptional. So what's the next phase for you? Are you going to carry on doing some of the things you've already done, try new things? What's that look like for you?
That's a really good question. I think for me, I've always been really, what's the word? I want to be the best. That's just how I am. I've always wanted to be the best, and I would love to be the number one property expert. That's what I really want to be able to do. So where I'm probably now in the top 5 or top 10 out of over 100 agents, I want to get to number one. So I guess for me, it's probably coming up with a strategy of how I'm gonna do that. I've kind of got a strategy at the moment where what I seem to be doing in terms of the social media sort of side of it, the local advertising that I do. So I've advertised in a local magazine, I advertise at my local precinct, and a lot of it now is word of mouth. So something I also, which I didn't mention previously, but when I first set up as well, because I'm working in the town that I grew up in, I also went and pretty much knocked on every door of anyone that I ever knew in that town. So there was probably a group of, say, 200 people that, you know, that lived kind of in the town that I might have gone to school with, and I just went and knocked on their door and said, just wanted to let you know, I used to work at this company before and I've just left. Here's my business card. I'm a new business. If you know any, you know, if you're either thinking of selling in the future or you know anyone that's thinking of selling, and that was great. That was really, really good. And funny enough, from, you know, even just that, it, again, is another way where just the word starts to spread, you know, that you know, you're sort of, you're starting on your own, but not really sure what yeah, go on.
Listen, I think it's remarkable, and this is, you know, why I'm so happy for you to share your experience with us, because, you know, it's remarkable. Any business launch of any new brand into, and not only a new brand of a estate agency in Reading, but a style, a whole new concept. You know, still the general public do not realise a lot of the time that there is a viable alternative than going to a high street shop. So not only did you have to promote your brand, but a new product as well. And now to have most of your business come through word of mouth 10 months later, that's again credit to you. It's world class. So just finishing off, if that was, you know, one of the lessons there was, you know, speak to everybody, get yourself out there and get known. What other lessons and particular mindset would you give advice to anybody thinking of doing this?
So the lesson that I think for me, one of a small regret is I wish I'd done this years ago. I wish I'd had the confidence in myself to take that leap and go and do it, because I've been doing it for someone else for a long time, and yeah, I really wish I'd done it earlier. But we are where we are, you know. So, and timing sometimes can be everything. So it you know, I kind of, it felt like the right time when I kind of made, you know, sort of made that leap. I guess one thing as well, when, you know, when I sort of was onboarding with the property experts, we did a blueprint to success, which was absolutely fantastic. And that was then also, you know, there were people on that, you know, on my blueprint to success that had never been estate agents before. And what that coaching, you know, you got all the coaching that you needed, which was absolutely fantastic. And you just need the right characteristics, you know, to kind of, you know, to sort of make it happen. Mindset, you've got to be strong. You've got to be able to, going from employed to self-employed, you've got no one telling you, you know, you must get out of bed today and go to work. So you've got to be driven. You've got to be, you know, really strong. You've got to really want to do well. For me, I was, like I said before, I was all in. So I was 110%. And I was going to, you know, do whatever I needed to do to get my first listings, get houses on the market, get them sold, build a pipeline, and kind of just, you know, just repeat that process. Yeah, it's one of those where a lot of the time, looking at the screen lessons, it's, you know, I've made some mistakes. You know, no one's perfect, and since September I've made some mistakes, some of them that have cost me money, but by only making those mistakes, you know, you learn those lessons. And what I love about, you know, partnering with the property experts is you've got such a great support network behind you. So if you ever have, you know, if you've ever got any questions, or, you know, and even someone might look at me and say, well, you know, surely after 15 years you'd know every question about estate agency, but you don't, because there's always something that comes up that you've never come across, you don't know, and that could be any number, you know, that could be anything, but just having that support network behind you is just fantastic. Yeah, and I'm really, for me, the property experts has just been a great partnership, and I'm so glad that we're working together. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, us too, Mark. We're very privilege to have you, and thank you very much for sharing that journey. Insightful. And do you know what it does for me? What I've loved about this, it's exactly the same as if we were on the call together and we were just chatting like we have done before. You're very human, you're very down to earth, and hopefully the message that has come across from you is, this is hard work. You've got to be all in, and you've got to work at building your business. But the rewards are there for you, both in giving yourself the time that you choose to spend, how you choose to spend it, and also the financial gains, which pays for things like your Florida trip for your family that you've just booked. And I just think that's amazing. So thank you very much, Mark.
Thank
I
you.
can't really see whether we've had any questions in, Shauna, that Mark would like to address. So if there are any questions that have come in, Mark is happy to answer anybody's questions.
So I've just put a message in the chat. So if anyone does have any questions, please drop them in now. That would be amazing. And I can read them out to Mark and Jim. So we'll give a minute or two for any questions. And obviously, if not, you can always get in touch with us after this.
Yeah, I think for me, Mark, touching back on, you talked about the blueprint on the training, and whilst you did have 15 years of experience, if you hadn't have had that experience, would the education and what you learned have been enough to get you the same success, do you think?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because in that blueprint, they cover, it's kind of like a start to finish to how to be an estate agent. And I'll be honest, I went into it thinking, and this, like, just forgive me, but I went into it thinking, I'm not going to learn anything from this. I've been an estate agent for 14 years. I know everything there is to know about estate agency. And how wrong was I? I was so wrong. And I picked up some really great, I guess the thing as well for me is I was very interested in how I was going to set it all up. So how was I going to go from no listings, so basically September the 1st, 2024, I've got no houses on the market.
Yeah.
I've got no stock. I'm used to dealing with 30 houses on the market and 30 houses being sold. I'm used to a busy office. I'm used to the phone ringing all the time. And it was like, right, what am I going to do? And in that blueprint to success, they tell you absolutely everything you need to know, from your social media posts to, doing a countdown to like the start of your business, to the leaflet side of it, to, to maybe going door knocking, to everything. It's all covered. So it doesn't really matter if you've not been an estate agent before. It doesn't at all, because everything gets covered. You will need to have the characteristics of, of kind of starting a business and all that sort of stuff. But it's a great journey. I've just loved every minute of it. It's been great.
Yeah, you can tell, mate. It's fantastic. And if I could convince you to actually take some time off, we will go and play golf. But you're so busy, and you love it so much. A question I've got for you, just before we go to the audience, and it's a really simple question. What feels the hardest work for you? 40 hours a week in an estate agent office, or 70 hours a week as a self-employed property expert? Which feels the hardest?
Do you know what? Probably when you work for someone else and you're doing everything for someone else and you're building their dream, so weirdly, probably working 40 hours for someone else. When you're self-employed and everything you're doing is for you, and you're working late at night, quite often I'll get up early and start work before the kids are awake and all that sort of stuff. But when it's for you, it's just, and the best feeling ever is when you get that first exchange and that money rolls into your bank account, and you're used to earning 10%, 5%, 15% of a fee. And when that money hits your bank account it is so, it's one of those that some people will be driven by the financial side of it. Some people are driven by, the free time they might have, the time they can run their own diary, all that sort of stuff. It's probably important. You need to find out what's your why. And for me, mine is obviously I want, I've got a family, so I need to earn, but also spending more time with my family. So yeah, it's pointless being cash rich and time poor. It's about having that balance. So yeah.
Fantastic. Shauna, do we have any questions that we would like Mark to address?
We do. So we've got a few questions for you. So the first one is, which was the best social media platform for you in your experience?
That's a really good question. So in terms of getting business from it, Facebook and Instagram have been brilliant. They've been really, really good. I do stuff on LinkedIn, but in terms of actual people coming to me and saying, I might get a message saying, "Hi Mark, I've seen your video that you did of this house. Loved it. I've got a house to sell. Let's talk." It could be a simple message like that. But you also get people that want to view houses through those platforms as well. So someone that lives in my local area, I put a video online on Facebook or Instagram. They've seen the video and then they've directly messaged me saying, "Hi Mark, love this video. Would love to come and take a look." So probably Facebook and Instagram.
Brilliant. And we've got another question. So from a guy who has 0 estate agency experience, would you recommend that this could be the right path for me?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think you need any experience. There are people that were on my onboarding week that had never had any experience, and they've gone on to do really, really well. I think a lot of it is about your own character, and because as well as being an estate agent, you're setting up your own business at the same time. So there's kind of a few things that you need to sort of think about and kind of consider and all that sort of stuff. But I definitely think it could work for someone that's not been an estate agent before. If you're hardworking and you're driven, they're the basics. You do the blueprint to success, which is 5 days of something like 10 a.m. till 4 a.m. You literally get taught everything you need to know. And then also, you've got a whole community of other property experts like me. I think, is there 150 property experts, Jim? Is that right? So yeah. So and if we have teams, group chats, and all that sort of stuff, so that it's a real community of people that can help you. And you can, and all our details, or so if anyone ever phones, anyone could phone me anytime and say, "Hi Mark, got a question about this. What do you think? What would you do?" Or you can, you can phone Jim, you can phone Kelly, one of the other coaches, you can phone Samantha from the media team. There's so many people you can speak to. You're part of a community. So when you're self-employed, but you're not alone, you're completely not alone. You've got the backing of lots and lots of people. So yeah.
Amazing. And another question. So we've got, Mark, when you leaflet dropped, you said you used Meet Mark Moffatt. What was your open line to potential clients on their doorstep?
That's a really good question. So I did sort of 2 different types of leaflet sort of drops, because there'd be the one where it would be people that I know who live there. So that was on the drop where it would say, I'm literally getting my name out there. So I'd go and knock on someone's door, but I actually know, which I know sounds a bit strange that someone would do that. But just for me, it just felt like the right thing to do. So it could have been someone I went to school with 20 years ago, and I knew their mum and dad lived in that house, and I went and knocked on the door and said, "Hi, I used to go to school with your son," whatever it was. I've just left my old estate agency job that was in this town. Here's a leaflet, it's got my details. Just wanted to let you know. And most people are actually really receptive and say, "Oh, well, thanks for knocking, and we're not selling right now, but Oh, we'll let you know. And oh, actually, number 15 said they were thinking of selling. So we're we'll say that you've set up on your own and all that sort of stuff. So there was kind of that part of it. A lot of my leaflets were just literally through people's letterboxes, which is absolutely fine. So that was just kind of getting my name out there. And there is a little bit of door knocking that I do, where you go and knock on people's houses that that are already on the market. So a house that's on the market, obviously I'm an estate agent, I sell houses for a living. I would go and knock on their door, and I usually, the best thing to do is always take a gift. So I always go with something to give them. So that could be a brochure about property experts and my business. So could be something like this, which is 20 great reasons to the property experts. And it's, that's all sort of personalized and stuff. So you go and sort of give them, you give them something. And normally a house that I would have door knocked on, I would have already researched the house before. So say, for example, if they had some horrible pictures and, was just on Rightmove, all that sort of stuff, I might say to them, actually another agent could do a video, drone footage, all that. And I would explain what I do. So there's different types of leafleting and door knocking and all that sort of stuff. But in a nutshell, that's kind of it.
Fantastic. And another question we've had is, if I didn't want my name out there everywhere, could I set it all up under a professional pen name?
I guess
Jim,
that's
might be a
probably
question
more
for you
one
as
for
well.
Jim.
Yeah, I'll come in on that. I think it should speak loud enough for itself with Mark's almost notoriety that he's created for himself, almost mini fame that he's created for himself, and that's because people buy people, and our whole ethos about our business is that we're not a brand, we're not a brand you have to explain what it does. It's a people business, a people to people business. People are buying into Mark, whether it's because they're taking a selfie of him with the picture in the shopping centre, or because they've got a leaflet because their son went to school with him, and whether it's on his for sale boards. But people buy people. This is a people business. So everything the property expert stands for is about helping people like Mark create a personal branded business, which is personally branded around them as a human being, and that is so powerful. And Mark, you'll be able to advocate that in terms of you've now got lots of sold and for sale boards around. How many people do you go into houses that have recognized you from your boards?
Yeah, no, that's completely true. And just as well on that, I was kind of a little bit skeptical about having my face on all of my my leaflets and my, the boards and all that sort of stuff. But what I found really interesting was I kind of thought everyone in my local town knew that I was an estate agent, which might sound really weird, but I thought kind of anyone that had ever come across me must know that I've worked for this high street agency that I'd worked at for 14 years. But it turns out a lot of people didn't. So a lot of people I just thought might know, because I never really told anyone what I did, apart from, because like I say, the phone used to ring itself. I never had to do anything to promote that business because it kind of took care of itself because it had been going for a long time. So when your face is on your leaflets, your boards, and your name is attached to it, that will win you instructions by itself. And funny enough, it's a little bit frustrating, but a lot of my competitors now are putting their faces on their boards because they've seen my boards and seen the impact that it's having. Because you get, not that you get recognised, but it's like an almost, it's a bit more, putting a face to the name. Yeah. It creates a bit of trust, and I don't know, but yeah, a bit strange. So but there we go.
Listen, that's fantastic. Listen, we're out of time. Thank you, Mark, for your time. Thank you, Shauna, for hosting and guiding us through our conversation. Two guys talking about a thing they love. We could sit here till Christmas and share with you our musings. Mark, really from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much for being part of our journey and sharing your journey with our audience tonight. Any questions that we do have in the chat, we'll perhaps record another video and get that out online, or get that accessible to anybody who's joined this evening and get those answered as well. But if you don't follow Mark, if you don't follow my Instagram account, please do. We put lots of advice, lots of tips, share lots of things that are successful. And if you know anybody in Reading who needs to sell the house, there's only one person that you should recommend. Thank you very much for joining, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have. Thank you very much. Bye bye for now.